Hey, let's say you've created a trading bot or have recently subscribed to something. Here are some things you can do to understand and monitor performance. That is, aside from the profit-loss graph we're all going to stare at. Comparing a bot's live performance with its corresponding backtest is pretty straightforward. The caveat, though, is that a market's macro movements aren't likely to repeat in the same way. Imagine you've tested the last 2 years of Bitcoin trade history. Can you be certain it'll repeat in that way once you go live? Do we even know if that represents an entire cycle? Herein lies the biggest pitfall, overfitting, a blanket term for every reason your strategy didn't pan out. Of course, the goal is to create something that reacts correctly to market information. But how can we be sure of this? I guess the reality I want to point out is no one really knows. However, there are ways to make a more educated guess, and if successful, well, you know the rest. If you're familiar with my videos, you won't be surprised to hear that the first thing you should do is compare max drawdown. Let me be a bit more specific though. While this number represents the lowest point in a performance graph, you should also consider the chance of multiple drawdowns. This number should really be treated as an approximation for what could happen, which is to say your minus 90% max drawdown backtest is not limited to minus 90% live. Profitable trades is the win rate of your bot. The goal is to see if your live performing bot aligns with the backtest over time. There's also a bit of trader psychology to consider. For example, 9 losses in a row is not necessarily the end if your strategy averages 15% profitable trades. The risk score is also an interesting metric to watch because it tells a similar story to what we mentioned above. It's derived from the max drawdown and average monthly profit. Higher is better, and there are two influences: a higher monthly profit and a smaller max drawdown. The Sharpe ratio. To summarize how we use it, this compares a strategy's performance with an 8% annual return. Higher is better, but again, we just want to know if it's close to our backtest. We calculate this on a monthly basis, so you'll want to be running for at least that amount of time. If your bot trades very infrequently, you'll of course want to wait longer. The Sortino ratio is a similar variation of the Sharpe ratio, except it specifically assesses the risk of a strategy's downside. A higher value means more consistent returns. If you want to learn more about Sortino and Sharpe ratios, you can check out our articles linked below. The average lose month and average win month are decent, but for statistical significance, we'd want to look at these over the course of months, even years. At that point, though, it'd be obvious if the strategy was doing well. You may get the sense after watching this that the best way to ensure convincing live performance is a solid backtesting foundation, given that's what we've compared everything to. While that's part of it, you have to experiment at some point, and so it can't hurt to run a paper trade or even a small live allocation. So good luck and happy testing.